Potpourri. Potpourri. Potpourri comes from the French. Yes, it does. Potpourri. And it means a medley of things, a mixture of things. It can be someone discussing Shakespeare, and the next second football, and the next second music, and the next second food. Potpourri, a medley of things. And you know Grandma's stew, how delicious it was? Was not that a potpourri? A potpourri, meat and potatoes and carrots and peas and celery and garlic and onions, a wonderful mixture, a medley of things. And today's presentation is entitled Potpourri, Please. And what a pleasure to do it on the Community College of Philadelphia, CCPTV 53, their stellar television channel. Welcome, folks. My name is Burton Klein, and indeed today we'll talk about that French word potpourri, which in French, by the way, the literal meaning of it is rotten pot. Now, Grandma's stew was not a rotten pot, But you're liable to see a rotten pot of items today in the medley of things that I discuss. Let's get started. Let's say you're walking down the street, and you're walking down the street and you bump into Beyonce. And a few feet later, you happen to see Taylor Swift and then Taylor Dane. And then you see Jordan Sparks. And you see Shania Twain and Colby Kelly and Kelly Clarkson and Fergie and Pat Benatar. And you ask each of these people a question. Maybe you might speak to them on the phone. And you ask them a question. Is there a song in your life that you wish you had recorded? And invariably, Jordan, Beyonce, Taylor Swift would say, yes, there's a song. It's a 1997 song called Time to Say Goodbye. And Time to Say Goodbye is significant for this reason. On the charts, the songs that Taylor Swift and Taylor Dane and Beyonce and Jordan Sparks usually sing, Time to Say Goodbye, sung by Andrea Bocelli, the blind Italian opera star, and Sarah Brightman, the Broadway star. This song reached the top of the charts, the top of the rock charts in 1997. Yes, it did. Now, don't turn off this television set, because I'm just going to give you one line of the melody. Are you ready for this shock? I cannot sing, and you'll know it in a moment. But this is the song all those singers wished they would have sung, and it goes like this. Time to say goodbye. But Time to Say Goodbye did something else. It started, ladies and gentlemen and watchers, something called popra, a cross between pop music and opera, because that's what Time to Say Goodbye was. The aria sung by Bocelli and Sarah Brightman. And that song, Time to Say Goodbye, 1997, opened the doors for people like Il Divo, El Vallo, Vai da Kappa. People that sing popular music turned into opera music. Time to Say Goodbye. Potpourri, switching to something else. There was an earthquake in Napier, New Zealand, February 23rd, 1931. That is the date. You can Google it and check it. Napier is now a town of some 60,000 people. February 23rd, 1931, the earthquake was a 7.8. Napier at that time, Napier, had a population of about 6,000 people. Everything was leveled. Many, many deaths. But why is this significant, Napier, New Zealand? I'm going to tell you. Will you listen, please? In 1925, there was an exposition in Paris, France. And I can't speak French. That's to be taught by the wonderful French teachers here at Community College of Philadelphia. But in Paris, France in 1925, there was an exposition called Des Artistes Décoratifs, DES, ARTISTE, DECORATIF, Des Artistes Décoratifs. And that dealt with a different kind of decoration. We know it today as Art Deco. It's sort of various shapes, geometric shapes, in pastel colors, pink and yellow and green. But wait a minute, what happened to Napier, New Zealand? After the earthquake, February 23rd, 1931, Napier, New Zealand rebuilt itself in Art Deco, Des Artistes Décoratifs. The Exposition of Paris, 1925, and Napier, New Zealand, in this potpourri, please, is now the Art Deco capital of the world. You know, after going to Napier, New Zealand, we found it was a very lengthy trip. Very, very lengthy. And between you and I, that trip took a lot out of us. And our accommodations in our hotel in Napier were not good. Well, wait a minute. It is not, ladies and gentlemen, lengthy. We'll let the wonderful English teachers here at Community College tell you the word is lengthy. It is not between you and I. It is grammatically correct to say between you and me. And accommodations is the top misspelled word according to something, again, one can Google on the computer, in America. Accommodations has 2 C's and 2 M's, but most people spell it with 1 C or 1 M or any combination thereof. A little potpourri short grammar lesson. I'm not telling you why it's between you and me. I'm not telling you why it's lengthy. I'm not telling you why we'll let the English teachers do that. Let's travel, if we can, to Los Angeles. Frank Sinatra, Old Blue Eyes, his funeral was in Santa Monica, May 20th, 1998. And they played all of Sinatra's songs as backdrop music for that funeral, except for one in particular. It was Frank Sinatra's first hit in the year 1940. I'll Never Smile Again was the song played, premiered at his funeral. And indeed, Frank Sinatra never did smile again, did he? No, he did not. Let's stay in Los Angeles, because not too far from Santa Monica, where he was buried, and not related to his burial, there's a hotel called the SLS Hotel. An unusual name, is it not? SLS? It has no other name. What does SLS mean? If one comes into the hotel to stay, one has a chance to put in what one thinks SLS means. And if that person's SLS title or hotel name comes in and wins for whomever chooses, that person gets a week's stay at this magnificent hotel. A hotel with gymnasiums in some of the rooms. A hotel with discos in some of the rooms. Beautiful decor. I couldn't stay at SLS Hotel, but to me it means savor life's splendors. Or it might mean to you, sip latte slowly. The SLS Hotel. If you stop by in Los Angeles, you'll find where it is. Stop in. Maybe you will win a week there by them choosing your slogan. The Rime of the Ancient Mariner was written by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Potpourri. We're switching, are we not? Samuel Taylor Coleridge was born in 1772 at a place called Ottery St. Mary's in Devon County, about 230 miles from London. Samuel Taylor Coleridge. His most famous work was The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, and they spelled rhyme in the Old English R-I-M-E. And it was a custom at the time that if a ship were sailing and there were an albatross sailing with the ship, flying with the ship, accompanying the ship, if you will, that albatross was a good omen. It kept the ship from failing in high seas or inclement weather. Well, the mariner on the ship didn't like that albatross. And he took a bow and an arrow and he shot it. The albatross killed. There's a line in the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and the words in that rhyme say, instead of the cross, an albatross about his neck was hung, because the people on the ship that was going through high seas and going through turbulence, no longer was it smooth because the albatross was no longer there. They put the albatross around the mariner's neck. What does this have to do with potpourri, please? In my college classes of teaching public speaking, an albatross was usually around the speakers who were learning public speaking. An albatross made them scared and nervous and not know what to do. Well, we chose who would speak in the class. We picked names out of a hat, and for a moment now, please, ladies and gentlemen who are viewing, I am not Burton Klein. Let me be Bob. And Bob comes up, first one in the class, to give his speech in public speaking, and I think you might even see an albatross about his neck, if you imagine. I am now Bob. Here we go. Even though I've always lived in Philadelphia, my favorite football team is the Dallas Cowboys. My dad was in the Navy, and I've always been proud of his service. For many years, the Dallas Cowboys quarterback was Roger Staubach. Roger Staubach played his college football for Navy before he went to the Dallas Cowboys. Because of his Navy connection to my dad, the Dallas Cowboys are my favorite team. Roger Staubach led Navy to superior football teams with wins in the Army-Navy football games. His greatness continued by leading the Dallas Cowboys to a Super Bowl championship. Can I continue, teacher? Can I continue? Okay. My dad has honorable moral standards, and so does Roger Staubach. Even though Staubach has not played for the Cowboys since 1979, I say, go Dallas. Whew. And now let's get back to your presenter today on potpourri, please. Obviously, I overdid it, showing the nervousness of Bob as he spoke. But in public speaking classes, one learns in the class of this speaker to speak in concepts, not to read. If Bob would have had in his mind 3 words, Cowboys, Dad, Staubach, and didn't have to worry about the details, he learns in a public speaking class to speak in concepts. He also learns in a public speaking class about change of voice. Some people think when people do what I'm going to do now, it's over the top, it's hammy, it's not sincere. Let me talk to you about change of voice. The Dallas Cowboys, my dad, Roger Staubach. And let me talk to you about pausing when speaking. Watch now. Roger Staubach played his football for Navy. The midshipman of Navy, Annapolis, Maryland. Pauses. I teach in the class of public speaking the use of a podium, 3 basic uses. One is a lean to the side. Leaning in a natural lean. Roger Staubach, what a guy. What morals, what ethics, what a person. He was my dad. My dad was Roger Staubach. So one use of a podium is a lean. Another use of a podium for emphasis, watch my hand now, tapping or a bang on the podium. And I believe he led the Cowboys to the Super Bowl. Listen for the pauses now, listen for the change of voice too. Because of his leadership tendencies. because he cared. And notice the use of the hands. Notice the eyes going around to the audience. Notice the use of a body, public speaking, 3 words, so that the albatross can ultimately be removed and a young student can become an orator. Potpourri, please. The change now. I sure don't look it, but I go to a gym every day. And doctors will tell one, as you can check, that if you go to a gym every day to exercise, or exercise in a home every day, it should be about the same time. The body clock. The body clock says exercise, if it's the same time, it's more beneficial. And exercise, even though it may put one out of breath, it's the best relaxer in the world, the best relaxant in the world. Because exercise releases inside of one endorphins. Endorphins is a liquid inside of one's body, and it forms a relaxing fluid. Potpourri, please. Exercise. Dean Martin sang a song. It came out June 18th, 1953. Potpourri, yes it is. And the song was That's Amore. Now you already found out at the outset that I can't speak at all. You already found out at the outset that even more so, I can't sing at all. But just let me give you That's Amore for a reason. No, I am not Dean Martin. You can tell by looking at me. That's Amore. Goes like this. When the moon hits your eye like a bigger pizza pie, that's Amore. And what did that song do June 18th, 1953? It put Perillo Tours on the map as one of the foremost tour companies to travel in Italy. It also did something else. There are, if one were to Google, to mention Google again, between 186 and 196 countries in the world. It's according to what one reads or what one studies. But let's say there are 190 countries in the world, somewhere in the middle of that 186, 196 numbers that I just gave you. After Dean Martin's That's Amore, in all the travel magazines, Italy, one of those 186, 196, 190 countries in the world, went from 4.2 favorite countries to visit by visitors to 18.7%. Almost 20% of people felt that Italy was the country to go to. Dean Martin, That's Amore. We're going to stay overseas. We're going to go to Wattens, Austria. Wattens, W-A-T-T-E-N-S, the home of the very, very famous Swarovski crystals. S-W-A-R-O-V-S-K-I, Swarovski crystals. In 1855, they first came into existence. They make animals. They make people. They make Christmas decorations. They make swan. They make anything one can think of. Swarovski, you've seen in the malls, the Swarovski store. But there's something about the Swarovski plant in Wattens, Austria. One can go inside a mountain. It's not really a mountain. It might be a large hill, 900 feet high. And one goes on a glass car. Yes, you do, in Potpourri, please. And the glass car goes among all of the animals in crystal who start moving and talking. Swarovski crystals, a Disneyland, if you will, of crystal in Wattens, spelled with a W, Austria. We're going to go to Cairo, Egypt now. One must have a good heart, cannot suffer from any breathing problems, but one can actually go inside the pyramids in Cairo, Egypt. People don't know that for the most part. We went into the pyramids, my darling wife and I. You're hunched over as you're traveling through the pyramids. but it's an experience. I won't go into how the pyramids were built. There's so many views on that and so much research on that, and I don't know if any of it is valid from my mouth. But the pyramids of Cairo, Austria. Aristotle was a student of Plato. He lived from 384 BC to 322 before Christ. And Aristotle, among many things, is famous for what is called a syllogism. And viewers, syllogism, as so many of you know, means argument. It's a synonym for argument. S-Y-L-L-O-G-I-S-M, syllogism, and argument. Let me give you an example of an Aristotelian syllogism. I'll bring it to modern times, to these times at Community College Television, Channel 53, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Major premise, major thought, major premise. People who study hard are smart. Notice the pause now. Notice the change of voice. Minor premise. Tricia studies hard. Conclusion, Tricia is smart. If one backs up the major premise, minor premise, and conclusion with wonderful facts, it's an airtight argument. Yes, it is in Potpourri, please. And viewers, do you know that you can use Aristotelian argumentation to win the battles of life today? I'm not talking about physical battles, legal battles, or what have you. The logic of Aristotle. My wife and I are coming off a ship. The year is 2003, just 9 years ago. And the ship was in a place called Riga, Latvia, R-I-G-A, Riga, Latvia, a lovely little town. And walking down the gangplank and walking toward Riga, Latvia, which is just 500 yards off from the ship, we met a couple. Don't know their last names, but I can tell you, raising my right hand, her name was Angelica. His name was Rocco. Brother and sister taking a cruise. And I walked ahead with Rocco, and my darling wife, Sandra, walked behind with Angelica. Rocco told me that he was an executive with Dell Computer Corporation in one of their executive offices, Des Moines, Iowa. Angelica lived not too far away in Dubuque, Iowa. And Angelica and Rocco told us these things. I won't say what came from whose mouth, but Rocco, deep into technology, yes he was, in Potpourri, please. Deep into technology, being with Dell. But Angelica told us something. She was a member of the Luddite Progressive Society. Some say Luddite Progressive Society. My wife and I had never heard of that. Found out what Luddite means. Back in England in 1779, it was Anstey, England, A-N-S-T-E-Y. There was a fellow named Ned Ludd. Some say it's N-E-D, last name L-U-D-D. Some say L-U-D. Some called him Edward Ludlam, and it might even be a fictitious story, but regardless of the derivation, notice the pause. Notice the change of voice. Notice the hands and the eyes and the body movement. The Luddite Progressive Society stands for people who are against technology. Can you imagine that in this day and age? In the United States alone, there's supposed to be, viewers on Channel 53, 7 million people who belong to anti-technology societies. Not all named the same as Angelica's society. And these people downright don't like technology. There was a song written in 1985. The song dealt with Ned Ludd, L-U-D-D, or L-U-D, or Edward Ludlum, but the song went like this. Ned Ludd was an idiot boy. All he could do was wreck and destroy. He said to his friends, destroy the machines. What they do is stamp on my dreams. Ned Ludd, Luddite society. So a brother and sister, one, all technology, and the other not. Potpourri, it sure is. Singapore is very unusual. Singapore, if one were to check, will I say Google again? No, I will not say that again. Singapore has 5,170,000 people. 5,170,000. And it's funny because you know when I said before there are between 186 and 196 countries and I arrived at a figure of 190 for countries? Singapore is called a city-state. Pardon my grammar English teachers at community college. It ain't a country. It ain't a state. It ain't a city. It's a place, but some just call it a city-state. 77% of Singaporeans are Chinese. 14% are Malaysians. The rest are a mixture of other, also wonderful peoples. But listen to this about Singapore. If you're caught chewing gum in Singapore, merely chewing gum, you are fined $100. Oh my goodness. How did I know you're chewing gum? Well, in Singapore, ladies and gentlemen, on telephone poles throughout the city, there are cameras. If the same person is caught chewing gum a second time, you are jailed for a brief period of time. They don't want any gum on the streets in Singapore. It's antiseptically clean. And there was a New York Times poll in January of 2006. And the poll interviewed Singaporeans. Because of these telephone polls, one is P-O-L-L and one is P-O-L-E, is it not? And you know which is which. The poll from the New York Times said, how many of you folks would want to move from Singapore because you're being photographed as you walk down the street? And the figure was body temperature. 98.6% of the people interviewed said, we'll never leave here. We can walk in the streets 2 a.m. in the morning safely. Singapore, a city-state. Ladies and gentlemen, potpourri, a mixture of things. Grandma's beef stew. Well, you want to know something? I will take Grandma's beef stew anytime over what you had to suffer today by watching this telecast. I hope you're smiling. Inwardly, I am. Thank you for watching CCPTV, the educational channel, Community College of Philadelphia. This is Burton Klein Speaks. Hope to see you next time.